Good afternoon. I want to greet everyone here. The authorities of the Latin American Jewish Congress, the representatives of the various Jewish communities in the region, the authorities of AMIA and DAIA, and the top leaders of our sister countries who are with us today. Tomorrow will mark 30 years since the cowardly attack on the AMIA, through which Iranian terrorism claimed the lives of 85 Argentines. To be clear about what happened, that attack took place on the 10th of Avenue, when we all know that the 9th of Avenue commemorates the destruction of the temple and is a day of fasting, and also runs from the 9th to the 10th. In other words, it was no coincidence when they did it. They knew exactly what they were doing and the date they were doing it. Tomorrow will also mark 3 decades of impunity. 3 decades of smokescreens and crude maneuvers by shady figures to cover up one of the worst atrocities in our history. 3 decades of an eternal case, of mountains of written pages from hundreds of thousands of hours invested in investigations and judicial proceedings. But in many cases, not in the service of clarifying what happened, but rather in the service of manipulating reality, obscuring the truth, and consigning the case to oblivion. 3 decades will have passed in which politics and the justice system were either accomplices and cover-ups of the crime, or powerless actors who turned their backs on the tragedy while those responsible walked away unscathed. The ineptitude and negligence were so gross and pervasive that the Inter-American Court condemned the Argentine state itself for failing to properly investigate the case. And above all, 3 decades of pain will have passed for those 85 families, the particular pain of those wounds that time cannot heal, because the absence of justice persists in leaving open. It is difficult to imagine anything more abhorrent than being complicit in an attack against one's own people. To think that there were Argentines who collaborated with those who killed their fellow countrymen to protect those responsible and obscure the search for justice. This is something that those of us who participate in Argentine political life cannot tolerate. But we must also condemn and reject the inaction of those who, able to intervene, chose not to. Because it is the silence of the good that allows the triumph of the evil. The Torah teaches us that God gave us free will. I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse, choose life, so that you and your descendants may live. All of life is a contest between life and death, between good and evil, between truth and falsehood. Where in the middle we stand, we who, as free people, are also free to sin, free to choose both vice and virtue. This choice is exercised every day of our lives in different ways and in different situations. Every day we must choose. That's why silence and inaction are not merely passive, they are an active choice, even if sometimes we don't want to accept it or prefer to close our eyes. Today we choose to speak, not to remain silent. We choose to raise our voices, not to lower our arms. Ultimately, we choose life because we know that anything else is playing into the hands of death. Therefore, in this matter, as in all others, we are not here to be more of the same. We are here to propose a break with what various governments have done regarding the AMIA case over the last 30 years. We are promoting a law to extend trials in absentia to extremely serious crimes, including terrorist financing. This will allow the leaders of the Iranian regime involved in the attack to be tried. Although they may never serve a sentence, they cannot escape the eternal condemnation of a free court proving their guilt before the entire world. I have also instructed the Secretary of Justice to strengthen the Special Investigation Unit for the AMIA case to provide the plaintiff with more and better information. And we are maintaining a fluid dialogue with DAIA, AMIA, and Memoria Activa on this matter. As a corollary to what we are doing from the government, we celebrate the ruling issued by the Second Chamber of the Federal Court of Criminal Cassation on April 11, which classified the attack as a crime against humanity, which is of utmost importance and fundamental because it makes it an imprescriptible offense. It also finally held the Islamic Republic of Iran and Hezbollah responsible for the attack. While it is an enormous step forward that for the first time an AMIA case has been convicted in the Court of Cassation, there is still a long way to go. We cannot but maintain that the situation merits penalties commensurate with the seriousness of the crimes committed, commensurate with the cover-up of the role played by the terrorist state of Iran, commensurate with the seriousness of bribing witnesses to cover up crimes. We cannot fail to maintain that the situation merits sentences commensurate with the gravity of the crimes committed, commensurate with the cover-up of the role played by the terrorist state of Iran, commensurate with the gravity of bribing witnesses to cover up crimes against humanity. But today we must also draw attention to the current events because, unfortunately, the scourge of extreme terrorism against Argentine Jewish lives transcends the tragedy of the AMIA and the Israeli embassy and recently added a sad new chapter. On October 7, the terrorist group Hamas, in an act of brutal cowardice, murdered 1,200 civilians and kidnapped 250 more, including women, the elderly, and children. Among the atrocities committed on that fateful date, including executions carried out in captivity, the Hamas terrorist organization took the lives of 25 of our compatriots, and they still hold more than 100 hostages, including 8 Argentines. We demand the immediate and unconditional release of all those kidnapped. No reasonable person could doubt that sectors of the fanatical Iranian government are behind these atrocities, just as they have been behind so many other atrocities against humanity. It is the same secretive force that the Argentine justice system recently confirmed as responsible for the attacks on our soil. To be clear and to avoid any doubt, the terrorism of that tragic October 7th is exactly the same terrorism that attacked us 30 years ago. It is not another, it is the same, sectors linked to the Iranian government, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Therefore, there can be no doubt that Iranian terrorism is a matter of national interest that directly affects the lives of Argentines, even if its most recent manifestations do not occur on our soil. It is not just an issue that affects Israel, it has been a latent threat to the lives of Argentines for 30 years, claiming 25 more Argentine lives last year alone. In a global context of resurgence of anti-Semitism, we must be firm and uncompromising when it comes to terrorism. There are no possible nuances, there is only good and evil. That is why we have declared Hamas a terrorist organization, something no government dared to do out of diplomatic speculation, even though it was always obvious to all those who knew anything about the case. And that is why we are also strengthening the quality of intelligence serving our national security. Complex threats require complex tools. To address this, we have resolved to completely reform our national intelligence system, creating 3 agencies to protect the Argentine people. Because only with professional, up-to-date intelligence services, free from particular political interests, can we prevent tragedies like these from happening again. In closing, I want to once again thank the authorities of the Latin American Jewish Congress for inviting me to speak here today. And I want to recall another concept from the Holy Scriptures, the Book of Kings. King Solomon asks God for wisdom to distinguish good from evil, courage to choose it, and perseverance to stay on the path. All of us here, not only those of us who hold political responsibilities, but also ordinary citizens, both in Argentina and around the world, must heed this teaching. Because it is not enough to know what is good, we must do what is good. Because when we turn our backs on good, whether through omission, cowardice, or convenience, we are choosing evil. Terrorism hates freedom and worships death. We love life and liberty. Thank you very much. May God bless the Argentine people and may the forces of heaven be with us. Thank you very much.